India. We finally made it after about 24 hours of traveling. We're finally here. We've had a long day today, but we had a ton of first impressions and we just wanted to share a couple of them with you.
Alright, so a big thing that I've noticed that's completely different than back at home is just when you go eat somewhere, when you get a plate full of food, it is just a rainbow of colors. It's so different than everything we eat at home and so much more colorful, and it's just one thing that's completely different that's really cool about where we are now.
Something I've been really surprised by getting to India is how well we've actually all adjusted to the time here. We're a whole 10.5 hours ahead of where we are back at home in Kansas, and for the most part, sleeping on the plane and taking a nap once we got to the hotel this morning, most everyone's up and going, and we're actually have adjusted really well to our schedule.
I'm so tired. My first impressions, let me back up a little bit. Just traveling from one side of the world to another is a completely humbling experience. We live our lives just totally immersed in our daily goings-on, planning our agendas and going about our day. We don't really realize what's going on the global scale. Traveling from one side of the country to the other side in less than a day, that's really impressive. It just gives you a feeling of, man, this world's just not as big as we think it is.
My first impression of India is that it's a lot like the last time that I visited China. My father recently visited just this summer, and he was telling me that a trip that used to take 4 hours going from in the countryside to the city, which took 1 hour on a cramped bus when I was back, now there's a high-speed train system that only takes 30 minutes. So it just shows the amount of upside potential that this country has right now, and I'm pretty excited about that.
I think the only way I can really describe my first impression is kind of a controlled chaos. And what I mean by that is in the States we have all this structure. We have cities that have been completely planned out before they even started, coming to life really. And in India, it seems like everything just kind of moved so fast and no one really took the time to figure out what was actually going on. And so you have cars where I'm extremely uncomfortable in the way that they're driving, but there it's just kind of commonplace. Whereas, we have a very structured highway system and roads like that. And in addition to that, the spontaneity in which the infrastructure really come together, you'll have just shops and random places wherever someone can make do and find things. And so really trying to wrap my mind around the way this whole place operates is an entirely different level than what we're used to. So I'm looking forward to figuring out what else there is to see, because right now it's just been a huge hodgepodge of a whole sorts of different things. So
One of the things I didn't realize was the differences in the currency as I got here, and all of a sudden I was handed 1,000 rupees and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm rich, let's go to the party. And then realized that was about $15 US. I didn't realize how big of a difference it was here, and the differences in the economy and how the cost of the rupees is actually declining compared to the US dollar, and how big of a difference that makes here with people investing in gold.
I have definitely noticed the richness of the color here. There's from everything from the women's dresses to the food to the billboards to the flowers. Everything's so rich in color, and it's just really beautiful to see against all of the background.
My first impression of India was the clash between a world that's trying to be modern, but a world that's kind of stuck between an environment 30 to 40 years ago. You see people in the streets with cell phones, but at the same time you see lots of poverty, people just sitting on the side of the road, little mom and pop type shops. It's just interesting to try to see a culture that's trying to move ahead, but at the same time is stuck behind with roads that don't work, traffic system that is inefficient, power lines that are just dangling all over the place.
When I came to India, I expected to be shocked by a culture that was completely different from what I had come from before. But what I was the most surprised by was actually how much of a Western influence there was here. Everyone speaks English pretty fluently. I can understand everything everyone says. Billboards have English on them. There's just a lot of English around, and so it's very easy to understand people, easy to get around, so I really appreciated that.
What I've noticed since I've been in India is the food I had in America, the Indian food, tastes exactly the same over here, and it's just as delicious, so I don't feel like I'm losing out on a lot.
One of the first things that I've recognized in India that's different than the United States is that there's no order to any of the traffic that we're seeing on the roads. There's no police cars out trying to direct traffic. There are no lines on the road telling drivers where to go. Pedestrians walk as they please. It's just basically absolute chaos, and the drivers are left up to try to navigate it as best they can.